David Chaum here, founder of XXNetwork. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you. I'd like to tell you something that most people don't realize, but special cryptographic protocols are needed to preserve anonymity online. And the reason is because when you're interacting with what may be a very secure network where every single message is encrypted end to end and a lot of good security everywhere, still, if Alice is talking to, say, one node of a cryptocurrency and then maybe Bob is receiving payments or something for another node, and they do this from time to time, then that pattern statistically will reveal that Alice is working together with Bob. And so, in order to protect against this, what's called traffic analysis, we need a new kind of cryptographic protocol that I proposed in 1979, actually, which I set free, and it was built in open source for many, many years until now also. And it basically, after the Stone Revelations, I found a way to speed it up by a factor of 1,000. And now we have like 2.5 second latency for messages that travel all the way around the world, 5 nodes per message. So every half second, we randomly change the set of 5 nodes. And so you get the perfect anonymity set where any message coming in could correspond to any message going out. So this is what we've built at XX. I turn it over to Benjamin, who will tell you how you can participate and help make the internet private again. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So this mixnet, which David described, isn't theoretical. It's actually live now. So the XXNetwork mainnet went live November, I think 18th, 19th, and since then has been going strong. And the first dApp went live on the platform, the XX Messenger, mid-February. So the XX Messenger allows people to communicate, say similar to WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, except it's end-to-end encrypted and quantum secure, as well as it runs through this network. So it's metadata shredding. No one can use traffic analysis to figure out who you're talking to. And the entire system is private. So last weekend, the XX Foundation announced a set of grants. So there's 10 million XX available. And the team, myself included, put out a long series of RFPs. I think there's 20 something of them. And so RFPs, requests for proposals, are basically descriptions of things you can build on this platform. And we're hoping people will read these and understand what they can build on the platform and then apply. And then the foundation will grant them, significant grants in order to build these. So I'm going to now go and talking a little bit of what you can actually do. So within the XXDK, there is an API which allows you to connect and communicate through the XXNetwork Mix Network. So it's primarily written in Golang, and we already have bindings for iOS and Android to run it on phones. We are working on bindings that work in WebAssembly, so you can write code within browsers. And we're also working for server-side components for C, C++, Rust, and Python implementations. I'm also curious to hear what other languages people would like to use, and we definitely plan to support, anything that people really think they need. So I'm going to go through and show you how easy it is to actually use this. I'm going to run through an API in Go, kind of the native language that we work in. But again, we support many others, and that support is just increasing. So when you start operating, you need to create a key store. Unlike most communications, there's a significant focus here on keying material and ensuring that it's kept private. So we have our own key database called the EKV, which keeps these keys private and is actually metadata resistant. So if someone gets that key store, even in an unencrypted state, in an encrypted state, they can't tell how many other participants you're talking to through the network. So the first step is create a key store. You give it an NDF JSON, and this is basically the network definition file. It describes the network it's connecting to, and this is provided by the XX network on the website. This is actually part of the API. You can query it from servers. You give it a directory to put the keys in, and you give it a password. Once that's created, you can then load a client. You just pass it back the same stored directory and password. And there's a set of parameters which will tune how it operates, which we've got documentation on. And then you call on that client start network follower. And this is pretty simple. This is basically the mixed net equivalent of kind of being a validator. The device pings the network, kind of gets a feel for where it's at, and starts understanding where it can and can't send messages so that when you want to communicate, it's ready. It's pretty lightweight, and it kind of just runs in the background. And again, we've got this running on all sorts of phones with no problem. So when you created that key store, you created some identities that you use to send messages. But sending is a little bit different than receiving because this is meant to be private. So then when you want to actually communicate with someone, you create a reception identity. And this creates the large set of keys that you need to talk to just about anyone. And then you use that identity, which you can create on the fly, and you log in. And the term login is a little bit of a misnomer. This doesn't communicate with the network. This just sets up all the data structures locally so that you can talk to the network and pull stuff from the network. And if you want, you can get the contact object, which is a defined file type, which describes how anyone else on the network can talk to your newly generated identity. Now, sometimes you'll want a new identity and just use it once off and throw it away. And sometimes you'll want to use that identity to repeatedly communicate with other servers, in which case you'll want to store it. If you do want to store it, you actually can go back to the key store that was created earlier, and you can store it back in that key store instead of having to have your own encrypted store. So it's just a little nicety that we provide. Then you just got to send and receive data. So to connect to another party, you just call connect. You pass in the contact object of who you want to send it to, and you pass in the E2E client you saw was created at the previous slide, and some connection parameters, which again are documented. Once that connection goes through, it takes a few seconds. You can then send. We've got a message type system, so you can have multiple streams of communication. And you can receive by registering a listener, which is a callback that the system will automatically call every single time a message is sent to you. And that's it. There's not much to it, except we've got layers built on this to help you build things. So there's a layer called file transfer, which is designed to allow parties to trivially send data from point to point. There's an anonymous information retrieval system, which is somewhat similar to what you saw, but it's a little more compact, and it's meant for querying a server and getting back a result without that server knowing any identity information about who queried it. We've got a user discovery system. This is heavily used within the XX Messenger. It's basically a credential system, an anonymous one. So when people are searching for each other's credentials, it's not possible to figure out who's looking for who. We've created what we call the REST-like API, which basically builds on top of the same connections API that you saw, just to make a very REST-like interface for those who are familiar with it. We also have the broadcast protocol, which is pretty cool. So we've described here point-to-point communications, but it's actually possible to do one-to-many communications. Think of like a Telegram channel, or even you can do it to stream audio or large number of other things, where one person sends and many pick it up. And it's highly efficient. And from the network's perspective, it's just as expensive as a one-to-one communication. And lastly, we have payments, which is something we're working on. Obviously, the XXNetwork has its own system, but we also want to enable a wide variety of cryptocurrencies. And we have a white paper out. I recommend you check the Foundation's website. They've got it hosted, which describes how we're going to integrate payments into XX Messenger, and that will eventually go out to any app or dApp that wants to use them. And that's currently in development. We do not have public APIs for that yet. And so I want to talk about what this connects into. So our plan is to build the Elixir privacy platform. We're going to take the Messenger and blow it out. We want people to build dApps in a wide variety of things, which are very similar to the Web 2.0 counterparts, except they protect privacy. We want them accessible within the Messenger. And as I've said, the Foundation has put out a 10 million XX grant program to start with in order to get people building these things, which I encourage everyone here to apply. And we have a wide variety of RFPs that we've had. Here's a kind of icons for all of them. And yeah, so if you're curious the Messenger, you can download it now. If you would like to build stuff, go to the Foundation website. On there, you can get the announcement, you can get all the RFPs. You can contact me. I'm Ben at elixir.io. if you want any help or support. And thank you for listening.